Hello friends, welcome back for a bonus video of Oxygen Not Included spaced out walkthrough. Let me just stumble through this a little bit harder. We have technically completed the game, although we have gone back in time. Whoa, we transported back in time again. I'm just recording a few different videos at the same time, but by the time you're seeing this and the order of how these are going to be released, we have just completed the game. However, there is still more to be done. Let's try to colonize the Magma Asteroid, which I have never talked about before. So I'm going to talk about here because I've had people asking me about it. And it's like kind of your entry into the ultra late game if you want to start messing around with some more materials that you haven't ever played with before. It's kind of the whole idea behind this. So yeah, let's start to get prepared for that. So, like we've done with all of our other rocket launches, I'm going to be taking all the materials that I need in order to settle there. But this one's going to be a little bit different because we can't just land straight on the magma planet as it is. We need to site prep this kind of the same way that we did with our regolith asteroid. So what I'm going to be doing is waiting for a rocket to come back from mining before we start prepping the site, which we're going to do the exact same way with those rovers. But the rovers we're going to use are going to be made out of material to make sure that they don't melt, because they could melt if you make them out of material that will get melted by the lava. So the mining rocket I wanted to mention here. One of the resources we're a little bit short on is algae for this mission. So I had a rocket going out and mining this. It's obviously finished mining right now. But notice that we haven't really filled up any of our cargo, and that's because if we're mining algae, I want to mine it in a way that it drops it inside the rocket. Otherwise, my rocket area is so hot that a lot of times it just cooks it and turns it to dirt. So this is a way that you can get it done to mine algae and other like temperature sensitive type of things to make sure that they don't get ruined the instant you unload them when you get back home. So I'm going to do some of that stuff, and then this mining rocket is going to be retrofitted to turn into a rocket that will start sending rovers out to help us colonize the Magma Asteroid. They definitely need to help us for this a little bit, at least to get us started. Otherwise, the heat and everything is just going to be too much for my duplicants to deal with. So let me send that back, and we will start getting all the supplies that we need in order to get out there. So filling up the rest of these bins. Basically, I'm waiting for graphite and lead to come back from another rocket that's still heading back here from the regolith asteroid at this point in time. Really hard to juggle all these kinds of things in terms of like chronological order and trying to keep everything organized in their own videos. But yeah, that's kind of where we sit. Let me fill up the rest of these bins with the stuff that we need. At least some algae, some more glass is what we're going to need. Some metal ores if we can find it or if we can mine it. But we'll start site prepping this thing in just a bit. Okay, our mining rocket is back. It is ready to be retrofitted with our rovers and our payload something or others. I can't ever remember the name of anything. Orbital cargo module. Yeah, of course, that thing. So we're gonna create a couple of these actually, because we need a couple of things to be sent down there with the rovers so that they can work. There's very specific materials we're going to need there, and when you first land, there's basically nothing to work with. So we need to give them that. They will also not be capable of digging out the obsidian, which is also going to be there. So a little bit of setup work needs to happen here first. Secondly, when we create the rover modules that we need to make sure to make them out of steel, because if you make them out of something else, they're going to melt when the rovers get down there. Actually, we could also do this out of wolframite. Wolframite's probably going to be a better use of this. So let's make it out of wolframite instead because it has a better melting point. So there we go. How tall is this right now? 31. All right, I think we can add a third rover's module. So I did also get rid of the solar panels and the... Actually, can I even fit the nose cone on here now? No. Okay, it looks like we can only do two. I'm like, oh yeah, I found some kind of optimization here. Right? Yeah, okay, yeah, we can fit the other one. So yeah, just something like this. We're going to build it out of something we're going to make sure is not going to melt when we get it down there. The two things that I want to take is I want to take something that can help our rocket land eventually, but I also want to take a payload that's just going to be to help us build regular materials out there. And the best material for this is going to be obsidian because it won't melt due to the heat that's going to be going on. So I will ask for raw mineral here, obsidian in one, and for the other one, just some kind of metal, refined metal rather. That's not... I'm not planning on having it touch the actual lava. So I guess it doesn't really matter what kind, but we also want to make sure it doesn't, like, melt when we pull it out. So I guess... maybe we should take steel for this now that I'm thinking about this. Yeah, let's just do that just to be safe. So let's take steel in the other one. Actually, let me check all the melting temperatures really quickly, because I don't remember if iron is going to be enough. Whoops. I'm, like, making two out of the same thing. Obviously not lead, copper, steel. Wolframite we know is good, but we don't want to save... I want to save that for just the regular ore. So let's see the melting temperatures of each of these. Aluminum is horrible, 660. Gold, yeah, 1,000, that's too low. Iron, 1,500. That's borderline. Yeah, we might just need to send steel in this other one. I was curious if iron was going to be enough, but it doesn't seem like it. So we'll send steel in the other one. So what we're going to spray down when we get there is going to be the obsidian and the steel and 2 rovers modules made out of wolframite so that the rovers don't melt when they get down there. And that should be it. To kind of skip all the nuance of launching the rocket and getting somebody there. No reason to sit here and wait. I'm just going to advance forward to the point where we're ready to start sending all this stuff down over top of the Magma Asteroid. And skip all the rocket launching and flying and that kind of fun stuff. So, I'll see you there. Okay, now that we have our rocket that is ready to go and drop off all of our stuff, let's go ahead and do that. So, like we typically do, deploy the orbital cargo first. Let's take a look at the surface, by the way. This is kind of what it looks like. It'll look a little bit different every time, but the whole idea here is that with your first round of rovers, they will not be capable of digging through this obsidian. They probably can't do a whole lot with the magma. So all this first rovers are going to do is set up a platform up above all this stuff that's going to be where your duplicants can live and work in the meantime. And if they need to go get any supplies that have fallen inside the lava, they definitely can, because they're going to be made out of steel. So that's going to be the only real objective of our bots here, is to do that. So let's spray down our resources first. So we'll deploy both of these. There we go. Got them all here. Of course, I can't click on them because bugs are great. So I'll drop my robots here, and then we'll restart, and we'll get all these started to unpack and start building out some of the platform that we need to get this started. Behold, no one in the whole Earth can stop me because I can click on things now. Alright, so we've got our steel down here. We should have some obsidian. I think that we said we were going to be taking some of that. Yeah, okay, there is some still in here. So we're just going to start unpacking some of this stuff so that we can get started. I guess kind of unfortunate thing is we're going to need a lot more resources here, so we might need to start shipping ourselves some using the interplanetary launcher, but we'll get there. So, go back to the star map. Let's drop our bots down. Get them down here. Again, making them out of steel is incredibly important, or wolframite, which I think is what we actually made them out of. So if you take a look at this and we click on the bot itself, and the properties, you can see its melting temperature. If you were to make this out of gold or something, even this obsidian, it's sitting on the obsidian, it would melt it. So, yeah, kind of learned that the hard way the first time I tried this. I was like, where are all my bots going? But, yeah, they just get melted by how hot it is down here. So the bots' first tasks can really just be to unpack as many of these as possible. So we'll just go ahead and unpack a whole bunch of them until we have some supplies. And then the objective here is with the supplies that they unpack, like the obsidian specifically, you can start building ladders so they can get around to these other places to where some of the other payloads might have fallen. This was actually a pretty fortunate generation of this asteroid, honestly. I've seen a lot worse in terms of like having to dive pretty far down in the lava to get your payloads. But for these ones, all we really need to do is start up a way for them to move around. So there is going to be some, I guess there's igneous rock here by default? I didn't ever notice that. Maybe there's some, like, sitting on top of it, but in case there's not, let's just build some obsidian ladders here so they can at least get around and start unpacking all the payloads. So I'm going to keep them busy doing this for a little while until we have all the supplies that we need to get everything else built out. In the meantime, you could definitely send your rocket home, so I'm just going to send that one back. And then this one, we shouldn't need any more, I guess, like, preparation missions. So this one you could just kind of send back and start to get ready to send the actual one carrying your duplicants out here. And these will get it all prepped and ready to go. We'll start sending ourselves stuff through the interplanetary launcher, because we're going to need a lot of material. Actually, might as well just do that now. Oh, the igneous rock is because this lava is hardening. I guess that makes sense for some of these things that are landing on here. Okay. That is usable, but I guess if it does touch some of this stuff, it does get very hot. By the way, we'll talk about this a little bit later. So yeah, let's start sending ourselves some stuff. And we're going to send ourselves enough stuff to start building out our base. But it doesn't need to necessarily be obsidian. So let's see how much we actually have, because we don't have any plans for obsidian anyway. Okay, we have a lot of obsidian, like way more than we'll ever use. So let's start getting that sent. How's this hooked up? I think we can just change this to the fire planet. This is not going anywhere. And then we'll set it to obsidian, and all the stuff that we've swept up before will start getting sent out. So, there. Where is it? There. Okay, so we're going to start sending ourselves some extra obsidian, because we need a lot in order to build this out. Bots will just be busy unpacking all this stuff, and when they're done, we'll start talking about what we need to do to get the base set up. Alright, we're sending out our rocket that is going to be shipping ourselves all this extra steel. In conjunction with our interplanetary launcher that's going to be sending stuff as well. So we can kind of just maximize how much stuff we're sending out there. I can run multiple missions with these rockets to drop all this off. And again, the big upside is that this is just going to be one mission to drop off about 9,000 kilograms of something, whereas this only sends it about 100 kilograms at a time. So there you go. Just going to get that on the way, but we need to finish up some other stuff on this asteroid before we do that. So the bots are pretty much ready to get this started, and all I'm going to be doing with them, now that they've unpacked all the stuff that's down here, is I want them to build a wall that is going to serve as the bottom of the base, that the bots cannot walk on. And I want to do this so that because the bots are still extremely hot. There's not really a great way to tell what temperature they are, because nothing really displays it. But under the hood, oh, here we go, it's right here. Under the hood, their temperature definitely is very high. So if there's ever a place that my duplicants are going to live that we need to make, like, habitable, my bots are not allowed to walk there. So I want to make sure that we get plenty of space between where the bots are going to be and where the duplicants are going to live. The other exploit that we're kind of using here, it's unintentional, but the maximum temperature of something that's initially built seems like it's right around 45 degrees Celsius, because the obsidian that they're using to build this is like 1,000 degrees. So we can kind of take advantage of that, but these bots just need to be banned from ever being able to get up here, and this will be a good platform that you can use. We can use some of this igneous rock, by the way, since it's already down here. These bots can definitely use that in order to create a place for all of our material that's going to be launched out here to land, so that we don't have any material that will potentially get up into this base and heat it all up. So yeah, just going to kind of create a ceiling here and get that built out. Once that's all built out, the bots will basically be done. The only other thing we could really do is have them supply a place for our rocket to land, which we'll do here in just a little bit when we start getting it all set up. But yeah, so something like this, and then over on the side with the steel that we have, they can at least supply it, and then the duplicants will come back and build it. So something like this. And they'll still need to build the platform for any stuff to land on, like that. And then you can kind of build some ladders out here. Where are you? There we go. So there we go, something like this. And just be very aware that the bots only have a distance of about 2 that they can get on top of some of these platforms. So if there's ever a possibility for them to get there, like they could potentially hop from here to this platform, and I don't want that to happen. So I'm just going to... Oh, they can't reach these other ones. What am I doing? If they were ever going to be within that range, I'm just going to kind of build around so that they can still reach, but they can't get there. So I'm going to leave that little space there. There. Now we can be sure that they won't be able to get up there, but they can still build everything that's needed. So, yeah, we can do something like that. Let me actually wait until we build this platform just so that we can get high enough up to build that. So, yeah, there you go. That's going to kind of be phase number 2, is just kind of block out everything so the new stuff that lands is all at temperatures that my base is going to be happy with. Okay, our rocket that is delivering a bunch of supplies has arrived. So really nothing special here, just got to deploy the cargo modules once again. And that'll give us a bunch of stuff to work with when all my duplicants get here. So yeah, pretty straightforward portion of this. The robots that are down here are... I'm just trying to get them down as far as I can with the obsidian ladders so that I don't have to worry about that later. But there's not much more they can do. Once they have built this ceiling here, that's all I want them to do. So they will run out of batteries. They'll just kind of chill down here in the magma because they don't really care that much if it's that hot. So yeah, now we just need to make our rocket here, or rather make our rocket and fly our duplicants here so we can start up the base. Okay, while we're waiting for our rocket to load up, or rather getting it to the right place so we can start loading it up, a couple things that we're going to be doing back here is we're going to be creating a lot more tungsten. We need a lot in order to interact with the magma correctly. We're going to show a few different ways that you could deal with this, but there's one way that I think is the most, like, as intended type of way, so we're going to be focusing mostly on that. I did send myself a bunch of extra steel. Now I'm going to be packing up a bunch of wolframite, and I'll just put it back in the rocket and ship it off the same way. The other thing that we're going to need when we're there is water. So I'm going to start sending water from this asteroid, like we were doing before, to the Gassy Moo asteroid. We were sending oxalite using that, but we have plenty of oxalite here, so I shouldn't need to worry about it too much. So I'm going to go back to the metal planet. I'm going to re-hook up what we are sending on this, and we're just going to be sending water out here because we need a pretty good amount of it. So we'll go ahead and do that. Let me disconnect the shipping lines, by the way. I don't want those to be sending anymore, which is going to be somewhere in here. There we go. There. So yeah, just need to start sending water back there, and it should start sending here in just a second. Yep, there we go. So yeah, there's just going to be a big pile of stuff on the ground by the time my duplicants get here. So half of the job is really just going to be unpacking all this stuff so we can start using it and start getting this magma out of the way. So yeah, a couple more little setup steps here. Okay, we're pretty much ready to go. Let's change our destination to just be right outside of the Magma Asteroid. We just barely have enough to get here with the steam rocket, and you can get most places with just these steam rockets, as long as you don't mind the time that it takes. You could put like a petroleum or a hydrogen engine on this instead, but I don't really care that much. I already got plenty of steam, we're not running short on that, so yeah. Our crew is good to go. We're just taking Nisbet and the typical ones that we were using to settle other planets, so Eta, Beta, Otto. And we'll send some of them back. We'll probably just leave one person there, but this is the last thing we're going to be doing, so I guess we could just keep them there forever. And have half of our colony on the Magma Asteroid for no reason. Alright, so let's get them going here. Not really much more to do. I guess we could do our internal checks here really quickly. So, room check. Got a great hall. Got a washroom. Got all the supplies here for oxygen. Swept up all the stuff that we're supposed to be taking here. It's just kind of sitting on the ground. So yeah, we should be good. Let's get this rocket out of here. Yay! Rocket launch. And pretty much our last one of the run. So let's get these guys out of their suits. And then when we get there, we will land and do our typical landing procedures and start getting the build started. So we'll be there in just a few cycles. Okay, we're here. Let's go ahead and do our typical routine of landing on the planet. I don't know why my voice sounds so weird right now. Okay, let's proceed. Alright, let me grab a duplicant from inside the rocket that's going to be the person that builds our platform so that we can go ahead and land. Nisbet's on the phone, so she's not available right now. Pretty convenient timing. Let's grab Beta here. Tell Beta to get inside a suit, which looks like there's one right here. Durability's not great, though. Let's try to find another one. Also not great for that one. Okay, this one looks a lot better. There we go. Get in your suit, and let's go. Okay. Well, seems like she's not gonna go. A bunch of people are just like, oh, I gotta do a job. Well, I'm on break, and I'm asleep. So, alright. Otto, are you gonna come through here? Yes. Okay, let's get Otto down on the surface. By the way, did not bring a rover's module, only because we don't really need it when we're landing here. I guess you could to help speed you up a little bit, but it would really only be for like unpacking stuff and supplying things, so I don't know. It's not really that important, I don't think. Let's go ahead and deploy just anywhere on here. It doesn't really matter too much. Just need to get them nearby so that we can get the platform built. And once again, it's just doing the weird thing again. What's going on inside the rocket? Is he on break now? Aw, man, come on. What is going on? Otto, where are you? No, you're not on break. Oh, who would have thought? Another bug. I'm shocked. There we go, finally. Alright, so remember that we supplied this rocket platform already with the bots that were down here. So all Otto should have to do is just come over here and build it. So yeah, there we go. Pretty quick turnaround here. Once we get that done, we're just going to do our typical moving in process, but we're just going to stay up here. We won't be venturing down here for just a little bit until we get most of our base system set up. So now that we have that, let's just go ahead and land the rocket here. There we go. It is going to make these tiles kind of hot, but we have so much stuff here that I don't think it's going to matter all that much. We should be totally fine. So get them to land here, and yeah, we'll do our typical move-in process of just deleting the engine, and then we can get the duplicants out here and have them start helping out with doing stuff. Might get burned a little bit by this steam, but it should be gone here in just a second. Cool. Yeah, so liquid lock. Remember that we need backing tiles on everything in here because we're going to basically be just like building a space base. So that'll be the plan here for just a little bit, and we'll get that done. All right. Got ourselves a little mini base here that we're going to slowly start moving into. Note that we have to put drywall up every single place that we are exposed to space so that we don't leak any air or anything like that. But the big thing that I wanted to talk about too is how to basically use mesh or airflow tiles in one of these bases where you have to have all drywall backing in order to really make use out of anything. So, or rather, really just have like good airflow and that kind of stuff. So it's really just an open manual airlock will do it. I don't think I've really ever talked about that before, but that's kind of the idea in terms of like how to retain the same type of airflow that you have in a normal base. So the rest of this is just going to be grabbing all this payload stuff and unpacking as much of it as possible. Some of this is unfortunately quite hot because it was sitting on these tiles, which somehow got super hot. They were hot before I even landed, so I'm not really sure what got here and caused so much heat to be on there. So we may have a little bit of a cooling problem going on in here, but it shouldn't be too bad. The same typical stuff as we always have. Way to produce oxygen and start getting our suits up. The suits will help my duplicants work a lot faster, so I'll just be getting their suits all filled up, start putting up a checkpoint here, and then finishing out the rest of this side so that we can move all the way into the base. So very similar to how we just did all this on the Regolith asteroid. But, yeah, obviously I have to do it in a little bit of a different order here. And again, I'm not going down here at all with my duplicants. I just want to get everything set up here first. Then we'll start worrying about our cooling setup, which is going to be the next thing that we work on. Just to be sure, in case there's any side issues, like, for example, if a duplicant brings up a piece of debris from down here and drops it inside my base, I don't exactly want 1300 degree steel just sitting in my base somewhere. I need to be able to cool that if that becomes a problem, so that's going to be kind of our focus. But yeah, getting all this stuff unpacked and getting it into this system is going to be very important. And some of this is going to be water. We'll set some of that up in just a little bit, but I'm just going to finish up setting up the rest of this and getting the suits ready to go. So just be doing that for a little while. Okay, getting a little bit further along here. Added a bathroom on the inside because I'm pretty sure I'm getting the bug again where my water is getting deleted from my rocket. So that's not fun. So we have a whole bunch of polluted water out here on the ground. But to get that integrated, we can just go ahead and set up something really simple like this. Ask for polluted water here, and it'll put it straight into our system. That'll be our quick little bathroom loop, where it just gets cleaned, and then the rest of it just kind of runs into our bathrooms here. Very tiny loop for this, as we're trying to use as much water as we can for this little water pit that's going to be down here. That'll be the start of our cooling setup. We're going to double up our cooling setup with all this stuff. I'm going to show you a couple ways that you could deal with this, but the way that I'm going to be mostly focusing around is hardening this as much as I can and then digging it back out. So in order to harden it, we need to cool it down. And we're going to do that with steam turbines and aqua tuners and all that kind of fun stuff. So yeah, that'll be the plan down here. And I'll show a couple other ways you could probably do this. A couple of exploity ways, but yeah, we'll talk about that in just a bit. But just wanted to give a little bit of a check-in here as far as how things were going. Just having to very slowly progress my way over here, because also another problem on this planet is that there's a lot of passive radiation coming down from the sky, so you can't have your duplicants outside too often. And for the times that I'm trying to keep them inside, I'll try to keep them working somewhere down here. Also note that I'm not connecting any paths for my duplicants to walk over here. I don't want to risk them grabbing a piece of steel or obsidian or something like that, bringing it into the base and then dropping it on the ground, which will heat up a lot of stuff. That can cause a lot of problems. So I definitely want to avoid that if I can. But yeah, just getting bathrooms and that kind of stuff up here. Probably still going to keep a lot of our rocket stuff up for the time being, just because it's still useful. We may also have to switch over to a different oxygen method, because we are running a little bit low on algae. But yeah, just need to start getting this water system flowing. And here's the first few packets of it now, so that we can start using our bathrooms and all that fun stuff. So yeah, just going to keep on that course. As soon as we're ready to start tackling some of this, or if we get more expansions done, I'll check back in. But yeah, we'll go from there. Okay, we've taken a little bit more territory, but now it's probably a good time to start taking control of this area down here. Mostly because my duplicants are getting too much radiation sickness from working out here, so probably should have them doing something underneath everything anyway, so that they're more insulated from all the radiation. So let's talk about a few ways to start dealing with this. There's a couple of ways you could do this that are probably better, but they're also kind of an exploit. Let's go through like all the potential ways you could do this. There's some radiation vomiting going on, by the way. The two twins are very upset. Looking like nails back home. So, just living up to my colony's namesake. There you go. Alright, so, let's start going through some of the thought processes that you could do to get this out. So, first one, the most obvious one. Let's just build a pump. And let's build it out of steel and just hope it works. This will be a problem because this will overheat almost immediately. We could play around with it and see how much we could actually get done. So let's just do a little bit of experimentation here to see how long it goes before we have to start spending more steel on it to get it repaired. And then whatever we pump out, let's just pump out into an area like this. So wolframite vent, and then we'll just have it drop off right here. So yeah, let's try something like that first. I'm going to go through all the things that I know will not work, just to kind of demonstrate those, just in case you were curious. So yeah, they'll be getting down here in just a second. Once your duplicants start getting into the lava, though, they will start getting scalded as well. So you got to be a little bit careful and not let them kind of sit down there for too long. Otherwise, it's going to start causing problems. And also the thing that Beta is carrying right now is probably thousands of degrees hot. Yeah, you can see it's instantly flash boiling all this stuff. So that's why you really need to be careful about the things that they're allowed to start bringing up here. So if there's one more payload, I'm actually just going to force them to unpack it here instead of letting them come back here. So if anybody does pick it up, I'll make sure that they quickly drop it. So here we go. Now that we've got this hooked up, let's see how quickly this is going to overheat. Yeah, almost immediately. It's already overheating. As you can see, it says taking damage right now. So in order to keep this running, I would have to constantly be feeding this thing steel in order for it to work. And that's probably not a very good idea. So let's not do that. Second thought. One that's a little bit more reasonable. Let's put a pitcher pump down and let's start working with that. Because if we were to do something like this, we could put a bottle emptier right next to this and just let our pitcher pump run constantly. Here's somebody getting scalded from being in the lava, by the way. This is why you got to be careful. I might delete this ladder, actually, so they stop walking over there. So yeah, your duplicants can kind of come in and out of this every once in a while, but yeah, you really need to be careful and not overheat everything. by accident. So this is a lot of micromanagement if you want to do something like this. I guess we don't need these pipes anymore because it's not a real solution. So let's wait until this gets up here really quickly, and then we'll start up a pitcher pump. And we could do this a manual way with the pitcher pump and start getting some lava out of here. But you're going to be faced with the same problem with the pitcher pump too. It does have an overheat temperature, so that's not exactly a great solve. There's some other materials you could potentially make this out of, but nothing that will actually resist this. So let's drop a pitcher pump right here and call this good. If we set it up this way, we need to get whoever this is out of the lava. Get out. There you go. You might have to start babysitting these duplicants too and make some doors so that they can't actually pass through some areas, so that they're kind of stuck inside here healing. But the last thing you really want is to have a bunch of duplicants either incapacitated or just needing medical care at all, because it's a big waste of time. Just going to get this unpacked so that they're not tempted to grab it anymore. Alright, so pitcher pump. What we can do with this is we can enable auto bottle here. And if we start saying, okay, bring me all the magma that you can, that'll be fine, except for the pitcher pump will start taking some damage over time here. It does work. You can see we're basically deleting some of the magma, but the problem is, once again, I'm going to be spending a lot of duplicant time repairing this. So this is a thing. Like, you could do this, considering it doesn't really take that much extra obsidian, and there's plenty of extra here to deal with. But that's not a great way, honestly. If you have to constantly be repairing something, that's not the best way to do it. And just with this manual pumping of lava and putting it into this bottle emptier, it's going to take a long time to really make any progress with this. So let's talk about a third way. This way is much more of an exploit. We're going to kind of take advantage of the fact that when you build stuff, it'll do one of two things. It'll either push stuff out of the way, or it will delete it. So using these mechanized airlocks, we can start deleting a bunch of this by just finding, you know, a side over here. Build it out of something that's not going to melt. So wolframite and tungsten is what I'm using here. And if we just set this up on a signal switch, we can start kind of creating an area that we will let lava kind of flow into. But then it'll be deleted if it ever gets pushed up into space. You can see doing that pushes the magma out of the way, and then it gets exposed to space and it starts getting deleted. So you could do something like that. We could also start adding a bunch more tiles. So like, I could add some obsidian tiles here down at the bottom, and that would displace lava. Then I could come back in here and delete the tiles. So there's stuff like that you could definitely do to just continuously displace it until you have a pathway that you could build down. My duplicates are going to start getting scalded if I'm not careful here. There we go. Yep. So with this, we could just consistently open and close it, get a bunch of magma in there, push it out of the way, or delete it. You could also set this up on like a timer sensor and constantly open and shut it. So you could do something like that too. Let me finish up the rest of this build actually, so you could see like what a full working setup of this would look like. We do need to be a little bit careful when we're doing this, because otherwise your duplicants are going to be taking too much damage. You got to be a little bit careful. If we just do something like this, I don't know, throw a couple tiles over here on the side. We basically just make an area that we're going to have a bunch of doors hooked up to. Then if we just consistently open and close this, we'll delete a bunch of magma, and we'll consistently make our way down. Even stuff that's popping up here is being deleted, so Ada needs to be careful and not sit down here for too long. Get out! There we go. Let's make Ada go, like, really far away so that she's not tempted to... Wait, what? Why can't you get up there? Oh yeah, I banned them from walking over here with a door. That explains it. Let me finish this up really quickly so you don't have to watch me consistently micromanage everybody all the time. We'll be able to get this done a little bit quicker, so yeah. Let's do that really quickly. I'll get this done up the rest of the way so we can at least see the exploity way, but I'm not going to do it that way. I'll probably do it more the way that they intended it to be. So I'll do that, but let's get this built out. Okay, now that the setup is ready, all we need to do is run some automation wire to some of these doors. And as long as we keep these side ones closed, we should have a good space carved out for our duplicants to start working. This could also be a mechanism that you could use to start digging downward, as long as you could block off walls on either side. So if you wanted to keep going, you could consistently add airlocks all the way down here and keep blocking off territory and then deleting it with the doors as you go up and down. Like, these basically function as ladders. They're very slow and not very efficient ladders, but you can control them that way if you really wanted to, and that would be a way to get to where you wanted to go. Let me do the deletion stuff here really quickly. Where is it? Timer sensor. I'm just going to set this on a timer sensor so it automatically opens and shuts itself all the time. Until we get everything set up, at least in terms of the automation, I'm just going to leave it open all the time. So just do that. There. Then we can add some automation down to these ones. And as long as we have everything hooked up that way, we can just continue to add doors, and we could theoretically add doors like further down here and then replace these with walls. Like, there's a lot of ways you could do this to at least get down to the center here. And kind of the challenge here, I probably should have mentioned this earlier. The challenge here is there is a Niobium volcano on this asteroid that is buried way under the lava. And Niobium is a really rare resource that kind of just allows you to start doing some like funsy type of things in the game. It's not necessary at all, but I guess even landing on this asteroid isn't necessary either, so we're just kind of doing this for fun. But we need to watch Otto here. He might get stuck. Okay, Otto, you've been in there for too long. You need to get out. Otto, get out. There. Right on time. Now Ada's gonna start getting too hot too. Okay, so yeah. Almost there. Let's get the automation hooked up here really quickly. Then once we have it, we can turn on the automation and actually start running this thing. But you can see, this all used to be lava right here. We kind of just pushed it out of the way or deleted it by using these doors. So, kind of a weird way to do it. This should probably be fine. Let's just start doing this. Let me open this up. Then once all the lava flows in, you can just close the door, like close this outer door anyway, which will start either forcing it to go upward and get deleted, or it will close it off by virtue of, we can just do this, I guess. We could just be on an automatic signal, but the other thing you could do is just set this up to alternate every once in a while. So like every, let's say 20 seconds or so, have it open and close. So if you were to do something like that, what you could do is, if you're especially kind of downhill from all this lava, you could just start to mine out a bunch of this stuff and get the lava to flow over here so that it could be destroyed by your setup. So, again, very exploity. A lot of people are fine with doing it this way. I'm not, like, overly opposed to it, I guess, but the way that I think they intend that you do something like this is by setting up a whole bunch of steam turbines and hardening the magma so that you can dig through it. It'll take a long time to harden this, though, so that's probably the reason why a lot of people like to do some stuff like this, or you could do some stuff where you basically, like, build out some space here, and then if you start to destroy the inner tiles, you can kind of, like, create a vacuum and expand it out. There's a way you could do that as well, so lots of different ways to do this. But we're going to mostly focus on the Aquatuner steam turbine setup way to kind of cool stuff down and continue cooling it up until we can harden enough to get down to where we want to go. The other thing you can do too is, like, you can always kind of divide and conquer a lot of this. So like once it starts hardening, you could replace those with like obsidian walls and create a channel down there, which is probably what we're going to do if the only objective is to actually get to this. So... But yeah, we'll start off by hardening some of it so we can at least start making our way down. And I won't use this setup anymore. I'll just kind of deconstruct this. Or rather, I'll just leave it open all the time. So at least you know how that works, but yeah, there you go. Alright, so let me start mining out some of this stuff. I do need to get a bunch of this obsidian out of the way because I want to build my setup like maybe in this area. But it's going to take up a lot of space. And I want to start opening all this up so that the excess lava can kind of flow out of the way and we have enough room to build all of our setups. So let me start cleaning this up really quick. Okay, now that we've made a little bit of progress in terms of hollowing some stuff out, one quick note that I wanted to mention is that these doors can be really handy to block your duplicants from going over into places you don't want them to. So for example, the issue that I could have right now if I'm not careful is I could have duplicants taking the obsidian that's down here at thousands of degrees and bringing it over to this area and then dropping it on the ground, which would heat up everything to ridiculous degrees. And I don't want that to happen, so while they're working down here, I'm going to let them pass through this door, which will allow them to get over to all the other stuff that I want them to be working on. But they'll be banned from going over here so that they won't take it to the wrong place. So as long as I'm building buildings down here, I know that any of the stuff that was from the lava is fine to use. So I'm not that worried about this stuff overheating because it's all going to get cooled down anyway. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be starting our geothermal power plant, basically. We didn't talk about that in this run. We did in the base game, but not in this one, only because we didn't need it. So this is the first time we're really going to need it, but it's not really going to need to be for power. It's going to mostly just be for hardening all this magma and getting it out of the way. So what I'm going to do is start setting up something that has a few different layers. I'll get the rest of this all built out here in just a minute, but I just wanted to explain all the different parts. So the top layer is going to be my steam turbine room. We're just going to do something like this, and I will extend it out all the way to the end. I'm not going to do it right away, but we will eventually get all of this stuff built out. I kind of need to get enough igneous rock to be able to do this. So I could either send it to myself, or I could just wait until this hardens and just dig it out anyway. So we're going to have to wait for that. We can just start with 2 for right now. So this layer is going to be my steam turbines. This layer is going to be filled with water. And it's also going to need to be connected to some aqua tuners, because if I'm going to keep these steam turbines cool, I need a way to actually do that. So we have our cooling setup that's coming up here, but we need the aqua tuners to cool down the water that's going to be circulating through this whole area. So top layer is going to be our steam turbines. Middle layer is going to be water, which will eventually get turned into steam. This layer is going to be like our connecting layer. And then the bottom layer is going to be a bunch of metal tiles. So if I put down... You could also use diamond for this, by the way. I saw people commenting about that the last time we talked about this. You could definitely use diamond for this stuff if you do have a lot of extra diamond. Diamond isn't as available in Spaced Out as it is in the base game, so not going to recommend using too much diamond because it can be harder to come by, and it's very valuable for mining missions. So I'm just going to use tungsten for right now. You could also use steel, but these 2 layers are not going to be connected by anything yet. What we're eventually going to have is a signal switch. We'll make the automation a little bit more complicated here in a minute. But we're going to have a signal switch that's connected to some automation wire, and it's just going to go through and connect to a bunch of mechanized airlocks. So if I just do something like this, that will be the conduction point that's going to conduct the heat from these tiles into these tiles. And these tiles are eventually going to boil all the water that's going to be sitting in here. So that's going to kind of be the plan, but it's going to take me a little while to get all this stuff built out. So, Nisbet, you are sitting in lava. That's a bad idea. You can see my duplicants have taken a fair bit of damage from having to micromanage them, but that just kind of comes with the territory here if you ever have your duplicants stepping in the lava. So that's going to be the idea. This is going to take me a little while to build all this stuff out, but I'm going to build out a big long room that is meant for all my steam turbines, and then a big long room that's meant for all my steam, and then this area we don't need to extend out very far. This is enough. We will eventually create a channel as we harden the magma that goes straight down and continues to expand our metal tiles down into the area that we want to get, which is right here. So that'll be the plan, but it's going to take a little while to build out, so I'll be busy doing that. Okay, I lied. I said we would only be using a few steam turbines, but I just went ahead and built them all because I had more igneous rock here than I thought. I did kind of scrape some together by building a whole bunch of tiles out of plastic, since I have a bunch of extra plastic here. But yeah, so it's kind of what our base looks like. Got a big row of steam turbines, a big row that's just going to be all steam that are going to feed the turbines. So yeah, we're pretty much ready to get this going. We just need to set up our cooling here. And all I'm really going to be doing is I'm going to have 2 lines of cooling that are going to be coming down here, exchanging their temperatures initially with all this water that's going to be down there. And then we're just going to run them along all the turbines, which we're going to need to get up before we start up our aqua tuners. And we should probably start up our aqua tuners for a little while before we start getting any temperature drawn in from the lava. So we'll get all that stuff first, just to make sure that our steam turbines don't overrun us and make everything too hot. So, yeah. Just going to start building it kind of like this, and just going to be bridging it over the lines, kind of go all the way down, come all the way back, and feed back into this line for this one. So, looks like the bottom one and the third row are going to be going to the same tank, and or rather the same for the second and fourth. So, we'll get all that stuff hooked up. Here's our aqua tuners. We just need to get them hooked up to power really quickly, so just going to do these two things really fast, which I think we could just hook it up to that. Yeah, we can deconstruct all this other stuff. So, like this. So, yeah. Anyway, what we need to do is we also should set up our automation to make sure that this is going to not get too hot. Because if I just leave these closed, the aqua tuners are going to get too hot, and they will start to get broken, and that's pretty much the end of this whole thing, unless we want to break in here and fix it, which is going to be a lot of work, considering the positioning and everything. So, I don't want to do that, so let's do this the right way. So, I'm going to put a thermosensor in here, and I'm going to put it pretty close to where the aqua tuners are. They're the biggest things that I'm going to need to protect with this. The steam turbines, in theory, can handle steam that's infinity degrees, but the only way we're going to get overrun with heat is if our aqua tuners break, or if we're letting it get too hot in the steam turbine room, because it's going to be connected to our main base as well. There's really not a lot of room to work with here. I could kind of shift everything up if I really needed to, but I figured this fit, might as well just make it, or rather keep going with this plan. So, I'm going to have a thermosensor. I will hook this up to a buffer gate, which is not something we really talk about that often. But the buffer gate is just going to keep this open for longer than the signal would normally persist, meaning that we're going to wait a little while to close these doors to make sure that this temperature reading in here is actually accurate. If it's not accurate, we're going to wait for a little bit before we actually let these doors close and kind of set everything up. The other thing I probably want to do is let me get rid of one of these drop-off points and make sure that we're not dropping water right on top of this, otherwise we're going to get some weird readings. So I should probably do this instead. There. Now this can just be kind of a steam area. We can make sure that there's not going to be any outside of interference on it. We'll get a pretty accurate reading here. Then we'll connect it down to the doors, and the doors should also be connected to another OR gate, which I'm just going to be putting right here. And again, the whole reason that I put this on OR gates is just because I would like to have this set up in a way that there's one input and one output for pretty much everything that I do on automation. You won't have to like remember that there's two things that are connected to one line or anything like that. So just going to get this set up in that way. Oh, I think I'm actually using copper for a lot of this stuff. I definitely don't want to do that. That would be another way to ruin this whole setup. Let's make sure we're using steel. So there we go. Let me rebuild this really quick. Buffer gate. Down into an OR gate. Again, made out of steel. Got some automation wire, and there we go. So that should be good. Okay. Also note that this is really only going to work because all of this is a vacuum. If this was not a vacuum, or if this lava were to touch these tiles, it would kind of ruin the whole setup. So it's pretty delicate in terms of like the positioning and the little nuances that you have to put in here to make sure that everything works properly. So they definitely don't mess around with this asteroid. So gotta be pretty serious if you're going to be coming here. So there we go. Just get the rest of our power hooked up really quick. There. And hook it up like so. Then we can just hook up our aqua tuners really quickly. There we go. There. So, now that we have all that, let me build out the rest of this really quickly. We'll set up our automation afterward. I'll get all the cooling up here. We'll flood this with oxygen to make sure that it's dense enough to actually exchange the temperatures efficiently. And we'll get this system all started up here. So, give me just a bit to finish up the rest of the build. Alright, so we're finally up and running. We're still going to need to take this a little bit slow, only because we can't really get our cooling going full steam until we actually fill this all up with water first. Mainly because our points that we're evaluating the temperature and the pipes that are leading into that are not really immersed in water right now, so it's not a very effective system until this gets all the way filled up. So we still need more water to come in here before I'm confident that we can turn our steam turbines on. But in the meantime, we have turned on the aqua tuners so that we can at least make sure that the base and everything else is safe and cooled. So that's all up and running and starting to cool everything down. Just filling this up with oxygen to saturate it enough so that we can cool down the steam turbines effectively. But I'm not going to be closing these doors until this all gets entirely filled up with water. In the meantime, I've started sending a little bit more water from some of these other asteroids. And side note, the meteor showers have stopped here, but I was reading a comment earlier of someone said that they thought it was a bug, that once you restarted the game, the meteor showers would no longer happen on this asteroid, which I guess is true because I haven't really seen anything since then. Whereas the previous times that I played it and gotten to this point, the meteor showers stayed on for 50 to 80 cycles, somewhere in there, before they finally stopped. And they were of a bunch of different varieties, so I really just got the one of fullerene when I first fired the temporal tear opener, and then that was it. So I don't know what the deal is with that, but at least we have started to launch some extra water from here to help speed up this process a little bit. And you can launch it from the other planets that don't really have a good source of radiation. So, like, this is an example of one that's running with only the passive radiation, and this radiation is honestly kind of low. But even still, it's pretty slow, and it's a big use of power. But the other thing, too, is, like, if this is just an asteroid where only one duplicant is living, and I'm already making all this power, I might as well just send whatever I have and send off some extra water that way. So, yeah, this is going to be very dependent on your other colonies to be sending it supplies. And we're still not sustainable in terms of food and water yet, mostly because I want to take a little bit more territory and harden some of this lava and get it out of the way so that we can build some other things. So if I need to, we can start sending some supplies to start growing food here, start producing oxygen here. I could start sending some extra rust and salt and stuff like that if I have a mine going for it. Or we could start sending more oxalite from some of the other asteroids, something like that. But yeah, just kind of need to keep an eye on our food levels, which are decent. We've eaten a little bit more than half of what we brought. And the rust and salt levels are still pretty good too. So we should be able to live here for quite a while on the supplies that we brought, which is why I always recommend bringing so many. But yeah, we're definitely going to need to get sustainable, but we kind of need more space first. I guess we could knock out some of these solar panels once the steam turbines start up, because that'll be a lot more power than these solar panels can generate. So maybe we'll do that. Maybe we'll start growing our food and producing oxygen out here once we don't need the production of these solar panels anymore. So yeah, just waiting for the water to fill all the way up before I feel comfortable starting up these steam turbines. The settings for this, considering it's just regular water, is that if this is ever above 14.5 degrees, I'm going to let it through. You can get a little bit closer to that, because the freezing point of water is basically 0 degrees Celsius, right? But a lot of times it doesn't actually freeze right at that number, so you could be a little brave and lower this a little bit more, but if it ever lets a packet through that's slightly colder than that, which I've seen happen before, and this breaks your pipes, then all of a sudden the whole setup is kind of in jeopardy. So I don't want to do that. So for the time being, we're just going to be waiting for more water to get sent. I've also continued to send my payload rocket back and forth to just bring extra supplies, and the last one that I brought was a whole bunch of refined metal in the types that I want. So a lot of aluminum was kind of the point of this one, so that I could go back and replace these pipes with the most efficient thing possible if they're not already built out of aluminum, just to help our cooling be maximized here. It looks like a lot of this already was aluminum, so that's at least good, but I definitely want to make sure that we have all of this aluminum as much as we can possibly get to help encourage it. Oh, never mind, it wasn't aluminum. I was just going to say, I didn't think I actually brought that much initially, so yeah, just a couple more things we got to do here before we fire this whole thing up, but I want to at least make sure that we can handle the heat that these are going to put off and not put ourselves in a bad position on an already very hot planet. Okay, we have enough water. Everything has been illuminized. We've created more metal tiles than I initially thought we would, but like I talked about before in this run, having metal tiles and having radiant pipes run through these metal tiles is a really good way to exchange temperature. It's a little bit more effective than just exchanging it with the water here. So the idea here is I want as much temperature exchange as possible so that if I need to cool this big thing down, I actually have the power to push it, and the only way that I'll be able to do that is by making sure that the water exchanges temperature as rapidly as possible. So now that we have this, we do have a backup tank that can be used for other cooling or for our water setup later for oxygen and for growing crops and that kind of stuff. So this should be totally fine to totally seal off. So we have 2 lines that are going through and constantly cooling down all of these steam turbines. We have 1 line, or rather 2 lines that are connected to aqua tuners, and then the last line is just going to be accumulating water, and we'll use that for both cooling and for producing oxygen and food somewhere over here. So that'll be the plan. Alright, let's fire this thing up. First of all, we did mine out some of the obsidian that's over in this area a little bit. So I need to make sure that these tiles still touch metal. And I'm going to make a channel kind of down the middle here, and that'll be kind of how we expand. So ideally we will cool off the magma that's kind of nearby this, and I'll start digging down in a channel as much as I can to dig on each side as well, and continue to haul this out as much as possible until we start hitting the bottom. And we'll just kind of run this for as much as we can. So now that these are touching, I can just start building obsidian ladders down the middle like that. And then when I'm not building, I can turn this switch off and it'll start to respond to my thermosensor. So let's get that set up really quickly. I want to make sure that the doors open if we're anywhere above, let's say like 250. We'll see how much we can push it and how long it takes for the doors to open before it starts to heat everything up too much. My limit for being able to heat this up is 325, so I guess we could go a little bit higher than that. So let's say, I don't know, 285. Sure. The buffer gate, I want to make sure that we are at 285 for a good amount of time before we turn this on. So I'm going to set my buffer gate kind of high, like 25 seconds, to make sure that this is actually sitting anywhere below 285 before the doors are going to start closing. So should be good here. Now that this is all set to red, and now that my duplicants don't need to dig down here anymore, I can just turn this switch off. Again, this is an OR gate, meaning that both of them will be red. That'll close the doors, and then it'll start exchanging the temperature between the tiles that are connected to the magma and the tiles that are touching all the steam, which should start powering up our steam turbines. But I really need to make sure that I keep an eye on the water that's coming back out of here and make sure it's not getting too hot. Simultaneously, as I get more igneous rock, both from hardening up this lava and from the shipments that are coming from my payload rocket, which I need to get it sent back out here, I'm going to start walling this off so that we can keep this a little bit higher than we would normally want to. If I can keep this up around like 50 or 60 C, I'd rather do that than needing it to be so cool to cool down the base. So that'll be the plan here. I just don't have the materials to close all this off all the way yet. So yeah, that'll be the idea. Let me look at this actually. What's the thermal conductivity of this? Okay, yeah, it's not terrible, but it's still worse than the tiles, than the insulated tiles. Okay, cool. Well, this is going to be a while of just getting all this stuff done. What you could do if you really wanted to is once this recedes a little bit more, you could put auto miners here and hook them up to some cooling as well and automatically mine them out, but I'll just do it manually. I'll kind of keep my eye on it and continue to make my way down. But as we delete the heat basically by these steam turbines running, then we will start to harden this up. We'll start to cool all this magma down, and we'll make our way down as we harden it and continue to expand. So once that happens, we'll come back and we'll start doing it. But again, because we're not using any of these exploity ways, it's going to be quite a while for this to happen. So it might be a little bit before I check back in. So I'll see you then. Alright, we've been running for about 10 cycles, and here's where we stand. The temperature inside the steam room, steam turbine room, I guess. It's holding pretty steady. At its worst spot, it seems like it's about 34C, which is totally doable. So I'm not that worried about getting all this stuff closed off with igneous rock. I did get another delivery from my payload rocket, so I'm unpacking that and building out the rest of our food and oxygen area. So that'll be up there in just a bit. This area's changed a little bit too, and since we're starting to get tiles that harden, I want to get my duplicants in here to dig things out. I'm going to build this in a way that I have these mechanized airlocks down below this portion. This portion I really only care about preventing things from getting too hot. So you can see right now, it's now reading at 298, so it's just going to be like, oh, 298, that's too hot, I don't want to damage the aqua tuners. So I'm just going to open the doors, and once it falls down below 285, it's going to open back up. Or sorry, it'll close again after the buffer gate goes off, and it'll reattach itself effectively to all this stuff. The reason that I want to get in here and dig stuff out is because every time you dig something, you get half the material out that it originally was. So we're effectively indirectly destroying heat by doing that. So that in conjunction with the steam turbines running, as we harden individual tiles in here, I'm going to get my duplicants in here to dig it out. But I'm going to have a row of doors underneath this just because my duplicants will need to get in here and continue working. And I'll probably make a chamber that's a few things wide so that I don't have to cool the entire pool if I don't want to. I can eventually just turn this into a regular wall and then have the heat being conducted up it and up the center areas. But they can get through here without disrupting the heat mechanisms, and they can get down and continue to expand, build more ladders and that kind of stuff as time goes on. So that's the idea, so I won't need to continuously open this up and force it open when I need my duplicants to work down here. So yeah, just kind of on the path of cooling everything down, just going to continue to ship more resources to myself via the payload rocket, and build the rest of this out. So yeah, we'll just keep on going. Alright. Got our food area done, got our oxygen area done. So now we're producing everything from water, which means we are still dependent on these water shipments, but there's plenty of water on these other planets. I think I'm just sending it from the main base right now, and I cut off all the shipments from everywhere else. What's going on here? Why are you in the lava? This is another bug that I really don't like. If you ever, like, change asteroids and you try to click on a duplicant right away, it won't let you click, which doesn't make sense, but... Sorry, gotta babysit these guys a little bit. Get out of there, Nisbet. Thank you. Whoa, where are you going? Yeah, I don't want you to go down there. Deconstruct that. Okay, anyway, let me pause for a sec. So we got all this stuff set up. Just gonna be a simple water loop here. That's gonna be a cool water loop that goes through and cools the rest of my base down too. Just comes in and out of this tank right here, which is going to try to stay full. Any new water that comes in is just going to be introduced into the network like this. So there you go, just kind of joining up with packets based upon the loss that we experience from it being stolen by the oxygen and the food system and stuff. So pretty straightforward setup there. As for what we're going to be doing down here, let me get Beta to a safe place really quickly. Down here, what I'm going to do is a little bit of that dividing and conquering like I was talking about. And just solving a little bit of this at a time. So I'm going to be creating insulated walls on the left and right as soon as I have material here, which we're really struggling to get. But all I'm going to be doing is creating some insulated tile that goes here and just kind of closes this off. So that all we have to worry about is the magma that's immediately inside the chamber. And then as soon as it all hardens and gets dug out, I will sweep it and move it over to another area so that we're getting it out of there and it doesn't remelt and turn back into magma. So once we get it cooled down and once we get a small enough amount turned down, or rather cooled down, then we can solve that. So I'll probably dig out some more obsidian around here just so I have enough to start walling the rest of this off. And then I can create the ladders that go all the way down and create the metal tiles that go all the way down here, and that'll just be a little pocket of magma that we deal with at once here. And then the rest of this I'm going to try to leave alone if I can. You could try to harden all of this, but it's going to take a really long time. So just to help speed this up a little bit and still use kind of the solution that I think was intended, we're just going to do something like this and continue to build this chamber down while walling the left and right side with insulated tiles and just cutting off a little bit at a time so that we're only really cooling like this batch instead of this plus everything else it's connected to. So that'll be the plan. I just need to farm a little bit more obsidian here from these little areas that I could probably grab. Yeah, and I'll keep moving forward that way. The other thing that I think is a little bit of a concern right now is I need to get duplicants off of this asteroid, so they're not using as many resources. So I think I'm going to take a couple on the first trip just to make it so that we're not demanding as much food and oxygen. But because my food's probably not going to be ready in time before I run out, I'm just sending more from the ice planet. Doesn't look like we have a lot here, but that's because it's all sitting on my conveyor rails right now. So just going to be sending all the extra berry sludge that was produced here that's only being used on one duplicant and send it over to a place that actually needs it. So that's why having those interplanetary launchers up is convenient, so that the very minimal asteroids that you have with almost no crew there can still share their resources. So yeah, that's going to be the plan. I'll keep going on this for a little while. Once I get this all walled off and get some of this hardened up, like once I dig it all out, I'll show you how that works and we can sweep it over. And then that'll kind of be the process, is just continuing to extend this chamber down as we take off little bits of magma at a time. So yeah, we'll be on that. Alright, and there we go. Just a couple cycles later, and this is already starting to harden, and it's happening very quickly. So yeah, this is why just sectioning this off into little pieces at a time is much better than trying to do the whole thing all at once. So now that we have this, it was like midway when I was trying to get this all walled off. Let's go ahead and dig it out really quickly. And then with all this material that gets dug out, I'm just going to sweep it over into this area and kind of drop it in a corner that my duplicants can't reach. That'll just be igneous rock that I'm not allowed to use. If I'm ever wanting to build something, I will use igneous rock because it's what is, coming on my rockets right now and being delivered. I could deliver another material, honestly. It'll probably make this a little bit more simple, but for any of this material, I do not want to build with it, so I want to get it out of here. And I want to move it to a place my duplicants can't reach as soon as possible. So I'll just mark all this stuff for sweep. And then anything that falls down here is now kind of just banned from being used. So yeah, that's the idea. And then once this all gets hardened up, we can build our ladders further down, build our metal tiles further down, and then just kind of slowly dip our way into the next section as we harden that part as well. But yeah, that's going to be kind of the idea. And again, there is a little bit of micromanagement that needs to happen with your duplicants to keep them out of the lava when they start to get burned, but also allow them to go in there just a little bit because the suits can tolerate it for just a short amount of time. So yeah, just going to keep going along that route, and as soon as I have another like expansion ready to go after I sweep all this stuff out, we'll tack on another part. Okay, everything was hardened up and moved over to the side here, so we got a big pile of igneous rock that my duplicants are not allowed to use for any building. So yeah, now we're just going to start extending down into the lava a little bit further. So I'm just going to start with some ladders and metal tiles here in the middle, and then we can extend our ladders down at least a few tiles, just until it starts to dip into the lava a little bit. And then once it gets there, we can start walling the rest of this off with obsidian. As long as the tiles at least go down to the bottom area, you can kind of just wall this part in, and that'll isolate all of the lava that's in here to share its temperature with all these tiles and eventually get cooled by the steam. So the build, it's going to take my duplicants a little while to get all this stuff done, because we still need a little bit more obsidian. I might need to go fish some out from here and stuff like that. But yeah, just going to kind of dip down in there a little bit, and as I build these tiles, or as I get further down, it should force a little bit of the lava upward, because the tiles will displace the lava when we build it in there. So yeah, extension is happening here, and I'll just kind of keep plugging at it. It takes a little bit of babysitting to get this all to happen, at least to speed this up. You always could just let this run and not care about doing it quickly, but I'm going to try to do this as quickly as we can while still using this method. Alright, it's been a while. We're still making progress down. We have started to get close to the point where we're just going to hit abyssalite, and we're going to be in the area with the volcano. So we've got maybe 1 or 2 more expansions of our chamber here to go before we're at the place that we want to be. As you get further and further down, by the way, less and less of this heat is going to get conducted up into these tiles. So I'm also running a line of temp shift plates down the middle of this to help out. The obsidian was a little bit hard to come by, so I did start hardening this part over here so that I could start digging down into this obsidian and start getting it and using it in other places. So, second little contact point here, but as long as this does not overheat my aqua tuners, we should be fine. Got the rest of this all closed off. Bunch of fish flopping on the ground, by the way. Might as well have the extra food, I guess. Got this all closed off with insulated tiles, so yeah, our heat looks pretty good overall. Just continuing to make progress down here. There's also going to be a little bit of a crossroads here, because one of the challenges, I guess, if you really want to call it that, is getting in here and grabbing this VHS tape. If we can get in there and grab that artifact, that's kind of one of the challenges of this one. We could see what's in these lockers too. I'm not expecting anything special, but yeah, there you go. So some interesting stuff in here. But yeah, we're almost to the volcano. Just going to keep pushing this down a little bit further. And I guess I'll show just a little bit of what it looks like to expand into this a little bit more, considering we're getting pretty close here. So I'm also basically out of wolframite tiles, so having to switch to steel, which is not my favorite because they don't conduct all that well. So you can see it takes a while to do something like this. The last time I updated was like 20 cycles, but at least within those 20 cycles we got pretty far. All of this was roughly in the last 20 cycles. So pretty good amount of distance, I would say. But yeah, kind of just gonna keep going down here and get as far as we can, and we'll hit the abyssalite here soon. But yeah, only other thing we really got to be doing while we're expanding down like this is making sure that we pull our duplicants out before they get too burnt by the lava. But if that does happen, then you can just set up a bed or something like that. Your duplicants will go back and use it every once in a while. So yeah, this is all just pretty routine, I suppose, at least once you get used to it. It's just kind of getting them down there, pushing everything down as far as you can get, and yeah, we're really close. I think just one more expansion left and we're going to get there. And we'll handle this soon. We could extend this down into there, but I don't want to have to spend all the extra metal, so we might just start digging to the side while we're still making our way down, and harden all of this so we can harden a path over to that. We could also probably go through here too, now that I'm looking at this, because we only need like a couple of places for our duplicants to get in, but I don't want to like flood this and have it all flow into here. So I don't know. Yeah, we'll figure out our way into here. The sour gas can be a little bit of a concern, but you could always just liquid lock it, which would be interesting to liquid lock with magma, I suppose, just to make sure that the sour gas doesn't get out. But even if it does, it's not that big of a deal. It will heat up all your tiles and stuff up here, but nothing here is really going to be all that hurt by those sour gas leaking out, so I might just let it leak out, and it'll eventually just gas off into space. So yeah, we'll kind of make progress on both fronts here. I'll start making progress to at least start touching the tiles to get down into this abyssalite. Once we're there, it'll be easy to continue through here and start unearthing this volcano, and start making progress this way to get into the area with the artifact. Okay, we made it. We are officially touching the abyssalite tiles now, which means that all of this temperature conduction stuff doesn't really need to be here anymore. So I'll start deconstructing this here in just a little bit. We've also made the progress over to be able to get in range of this artifact. So, like I mentioned, I don't really care that much if there's sour gas that's kind of backwashing into the rest of my base here, but if we can avoid it, we might as well. So I'm just going to create a really simple liquid lock here, just to keep all the stuff inside that we don't want. So all I'm going to be doing is just putting a couple tiles like that of obsidian, and then all we need to do is just build a couple ladders underneath, so that my duplicants just have to route around like this. They'll have to dip into the lava for a second before they go over here. So before I open this up, I will do this to kind of keep it contained, but also give us access so that we can go grab this VHS tape and get the final artifact analyzed. At least the terrestrial artifacts. Where are we gonna put this? I guess we could get rid of some of these medical buildings. I could also close this door temporarily and just do it here. Yeah, maybe I'll just do that. Game's loading. Waiting for the game to load. There we go. So let's go ahead and close this, and we can add the station here to analyze it. Which I'm actually kind of debating if we should let this come in here. I wonder if this is going to be hot enough to cause any problems inside the base. That might be another thing to consider. The other thing I could do is I could just put it out here, since I'm only going to need it for a second. Let's just build it out here somewhere weird, like that, and see if we can just set it down somewhere and hopefully get it all analyzed before it starts getting damaged. Actually, maybe I could just do it here. Let's do this. Deconstruct those, set up some steel tiles. There. That's where I'll throw the artifact analysis station. I'll make it out of steel. Since we're only going to need it for a little bit, we'll get it there, and it'll probably overheat, but oh well. We'll just deconstruct it afterwards, so... Yeah, now that we have our liquid lock up here, all that we're going to need to do is kind of dig our way in, and then as long as the level doesn't recede too far, we could also do this and put it down one more to make sure that even if the magma does recede a little bit, it doesn't go all the way down. So we could add those two different things. Why are you in the lava? There we go. So yeah, there's our liquid lock, so now we can get our way down into here. We can just kind of deconstruct a couple of these buildings. And yeah, there you go. There's our routing right here for Nisbet to be able to get in there. Then all we need to do is grab this artifact, but we can just analyze it at a station over here, which we'll just make this out of steel to hopefully give it enough time to not get too broken in the meantime. There. Just kind of hook it up to power like that. So yeah, we'll grab that in just a bit, but there you go. A little cheap liquid lock, just taking advantage of the liquid that's already here, this being the magma. On this side, I'm just still hardening some stuff, considering I still want more of this material out of here. We have way more obsidian and igneous rock than we did before, just because we've gone down into here. And if you really wanted to, you could extend all this stuff out and continue to harden the rest of this. Like, you could just create tiles to do something like this, to harden all this magma over here. And it eventually would harden. Like, you can see all of this is basically gone, and this used to all be magma. Even in here, it's starting to harden a lot more as well. So you could keep going and harden everything if you really wanted to. And as long as you're doing it in smaller batches, it really doesn't take a terrible amount of time. We started on this maybe like 50 cycles ago, which is not that bad for basically changing the material of an entire planet. So yeah, there you go. Let's make sure we get this done here pretty quickly. We need to actually be able to get access to it, but yeah, that'll be the last one. We'll have officially gotten our 11th out of 10 terrestrial artifacts, so there you go, if you ever wanted to do that. Shouldn't be scalding too badly. Oh, being in the sour gas, they're probably going to get scalding, huh? All I need to do is grab it once, though, and get out of there, so... Get out of there, Beta! You can make it! Go! Oh! Yes! Okay, now I don't need to build these other two. So there, just kind of like a area that's going to be a little bit cut off from everything else. So yeah, we'll get this analyzed. We'll get that stuff we'll get that box checked basically, and then I will start deconstructing all the metal tiles here and expand into here where this Niobium volcano is. And we'll take that, and then I guess that will mean that we're done. There won't really be much left to do on this asteroid. So we can get all of our duplicants out of here in just a bit. So, yeah, I'll start deconstructing all this and start prepping this to build a little volcano tamer. Okay, it's been a little while, but in the meantime, what my duplicants have done is hollowed out all the area around the Niobium volcano, and also hollowed out all the areas that the naturally occurring Niobium was, just so that we have something to actually use in order to build inside here. I'm going to be overly cautious with this. You don't necessarily need to do everything that I'm going to do here, but I'm going to showcase something that we haven't talked about before, and that is building with Niobium. Niobium gives you the advantage of having an overheat temperature that's a plus 500 C. Steel is going to give you 200, so this is good for areas that you're going to use extremely high heat things. And this Niobium volcano puts out a hilarious amount of niobium every time it erupts. So this is going to be one of those volcanoes that, like, When it's erupting, it's a lot, and it's a lot to deal with all at once. When it's not erupting, it's fine. So this is really similar to one of the bigger regular magma volcanoes. So I'm going to take a couple of extra precautions versus just a regular metal volcano. Our regular metal volcanoes just kind of look like this. Small little chamber with steam, some regular equipment in here, built out of steel. Nothing too out of control in here. So I'm going to do the Niobium one a little bit different, though. The Niobium one, we can still probably build our aqua tuners out of steel. So I'll go ahead and throw those two in here. But I'm going to put them on a little platform so that when the Niobium erupts, if there's a whole bunch of molten Niobium, I don't necessarily want it running over these right when it spawns. If it touches some other tiles and heats up those tiles, that's fine, because there will be a dense enough amount of steam in here to keep these cooled down. If you're worried about it, you could make this out of Niobium as well. I'm also putting these kind of down further into the pit so that when we fill this up with water, they're still touching the water, so they could still at least get the steam started. But initially, you don't want to have them sitting on the same level that all the Niobium is going to drain to, because that might cause some problems. So I'm going to put them kind of up here like this. And then the rest of the stuff around, if we have auto sweepers in here, which we're going to want, you could build those out of Niobium to make sure that they're not going to overheat. So I'll build one kind of underneath and one over here to be able to grab all the Niobium from different places that it could come down. And then we could put up just a conveyor loader here somewhere that both of these could reach. So something like this, we could just put it there. And then we need an auto sweeper up here, and we will probably also need some robo miners, because the Niobium is going to come out at such a dense amount that we will probably want to have something in here to dig out any of it that does harden. So I'm going to put it like right here. I'll also build that out of Niobium. And this auto sweeper just to grab stuff that's up on this platform. So something like this. So there we go. I wonder if we could actually put this in the middle and have them all reach it. Does that reach? No. It's too blocked by the... Okay, we can't get them all. We tried to be cool. Yeah. I guess I could probably reposition this a little bit to see if I could get this in here. Let's cancel this. There we go. Now we could have them all feed one. There. So now they can all just feed one bin. And the thing we're going to want to make the rails out of is either going to be steel or wolframite. The Niobium is going to come out at 3,200 degrees Celsius, so we need something that's able to sustain and resist that. And the wolframite rails and the steel rails are probably the best we're going to get. Wolframite's going to melt at 2,900, and the steel's going to melt at 2,400. So we might need a couple of extra protections here. But I think it sitting in enough steam and everything should be able to handle this decently. We could probably also put everything on these signal switches, just to be sure that we're not sweeping everything up until we know it's safe to. So, could just do something simple like this, and get that set up this way. So, lots of extra precautions that could be made here, but just kind of want to give an idea of what we're going to be doing. We'll be doing the same thing here as we were doing with any of the setups with the other metal volcanoes, where we're just going to have a rail that comes through and kind of sits in the water or in the steam until it's acceptable to actually ship it out. So where is this conveyor shutoff? So we'll set up something like this, so like a conveyor shutoff here, and then make sure to also build all of our stuff out of something that isn't going to melt. And then our rails could eventually wind up down here so that when we ship it out, we verify that it's at a certain temperature before we actually send it up into our pool of water, which is going to be right here. So lots of other stuff to set up here. And I also really don't have a lot of water to get this started right now, so I kind of need to wait for this stuff to get built out and for the water to all be ready to go before I turn this on. Also note that I'm not dumping water in here yet, because it'll just instantly boil it, and that'll ruin all my vacuums that I have. So I'm going to wait until this is all sealed up. So yeah, just got a couple of things we need to build out here really quickly, and then when this is ready to turn on and dig out the rest of the way, we'll get that done. Okay, I think we're finally ready to dig this out and get it going. It's been a long time since the last video, but that's how long it takes to ship water to yourself, apparently. So yeah, here we go. Let's get this started. So I'm just going to dig out the volcano really quickly, and I'm going to wait until it's entirely dug out before I seal this off and then start sending water in. Like I mentioned, we don't want to send in water, otherwise it's going to boil right away, and that'll get rid of this nicely crafted vacuum that I have, which has been very useful for a lot of different reasons. So the setup is all pretty much ready here. You can see the RoboMiner is helping out with some of the softer spots and helping it get mined out. So there you go. And just to be sure that nothing hardens in the way, I'm going to sweep all this stuff out to get it out of here so that we don't have the same problem we had with our aluminum volcano before. So, going to get all that stuff out of here. The shipments that's going to be coming out, everything in here is made out of niobium, like I mentioned, except for the aqua tuners are made out of steel. This is just going to take everything, but I'm going to wait until this starts to settle a little bit more. I have a lot of temp shift plates in here, and the reasoning is because if you just do the math of how much is going to actually come out of here, it is so much higher than the regular metal volcanoes that we need a bunch of extra material in here to kind of absorb that heat. Otherwise, you could cause some problems, and if any part of this setup gets damaged, it's going to be annoying to get back in here, because I'm going to have to, like, harden all this magma and move it out of the way, or use the magma as a liquid lock to get in there, which is not what I want to do. So, yeah, it looks like we're all done sweeping that stuff out. The stuff that's on the bottom, I'm not really that worried. The RoboMiner can grab all of these tiles, by the way, in case anything does harden, but I think we should be fine. And I can also start shipping that out as soon as the steam starts coming in, so we'll get that set up here. By the way, it's been so long that look how much stuff I've hardened in the meantime, which kind of goes to show we've been hardening stuff for, I guess, around 100 cycles, and I've already gotten about half of it all the way hardened and dug out, so pretty good, I guess. Obviously not as good as the exploity way that we talked about, but still pretty good. So there we go. Now that we're all good to go with that, I'm just going to hook up our water lines here really quickly, which they have been disconnected only because I wanted to make sure that I stored up enough water to get all this dumped in at the same time. So this might be too much. I just kind of need to keep an eye on it and see how much is going to go in. And I didn't want to do it a little bit at a time. I wanted to make sure I had it all at once so that if this did erupt, I didn't have like too little water to be able to deal with it. So yeah, just going to get that filled up. I will start up these aqua tuners here in just a bit. As soon as some of the water comes in, we'll start to set this up. For right now, I just set it to a setting that it will never turn on. The water will need to be at least 9,725.9 Celsius. And yeah, that's not going to be a thing. Is this coming down? Yeah, okay, here we go. Yeah, the piping for this, pretty standard stuff. Just metal pipes here, or rather radiant pipes in here to help share the temperature. Can see the steam is starting up immediately, so the steam turbines are going to be active. And that's just going to send the water along the same line and back down into the drop-off point here. So I just need to keep an eye on this. I need to make sure to not overpressurize it. It's like 150 kilograms before this starts getting blocked up. And I want to leave a little bit of buffer just in case the niobium hardens and takes up extra tiles. Even the liquid niobium will take up extra tiles and push the steam out of the way. So, yeah. So for this, because this is just regular water, if this is ever above, let's say like 14.5, sure. Then we'll send it through and let it go to our aqua tuner. So we can start cooling this down, making sure we have at least enough running to cool down our steam turbines. So yeah, pretty standard stuff that we've done a few times already. And this should all be good to go. So I'll just let this fill up, and as soon as this erupts, we'll take a look at it, and we'll watch it go. And that'll be pretty much it. Like, there's not really much more to do. I'm going to be continuing to harden this stuff just because there's not much else to do. In the meantime, I guess you could send your duplicants back, but I figure that that makes more sense to just be the very last thing that we do. So that'll be just kind of like the ceremonial end of this bonus part of the video. We'll get there in just a bit. Let me just fill this up and wait for this to erupt again. Okay, we are about to erupt here. It says it's emitting, but we haven't quite seen anything quite yet. I just tried to get it as quick as I could. So this is going to start erupting into a lot of molten niobium. It should harden out here, and hopefully it shouldn't melt anything. So this will be our first chance at looking at this. So here we go. Gonna get it dug out by the RoboMiner here because it erupts very quickly. So yeah, a lot of it all at once. Didn't quite stay liquefied for as long as I would have wanted it to, but even still, like, this is a good amount of niobium, and our robo-miner is just going to stay busy for just a little bit. But yeah, so all this buffer here ought to keep everything in here cool enough so that we can ship it out. It's like once it gets on the rail, it comes out pretty easily too, so yeah, this is this is pretty interesting. Actually, the reason why it spreads out this much and why this is such a pain is this actually has a really low settling density. So like, if you look at magma, for example, its settling density is at like 1,800 kilograms. This one only gets up to about 200 before it goes up into another tile, but yeah, there you go. Finally captured one of the most rare things in the entire game. Definitely very hard to get to. We've got our shipments of niobium coming out of here. Very typical sensor system just to make sure that it is cool enough before it finally gets sent out. And yeah, there you go. So if you wanted to play around with any of the more late game type of setups where you need to be able to resist a lot of heat, this will definitely produce some for you. So yeah, there you have it, and that'll pretty much do it. Let's get our duplicants out of here, and we'll call this good. Just need to run our checklist here really quickly. I am taking rust with me, and we also need salt for the oxygen. We have a good amount of food in here, so that should be good. We don't have any oxygen inside the rocket yet, because we haven't created our rust deoxidizer, so let's go ahead and do that. And we have water, and we can get our duplicants out of here. Let's figure out who we're going to strand very last. Who are we going to leave here? How about you? Beta. Okay, we're breaking the twins up at the very end. That's so mean. Alright, Ada, Nisbet, Otto, you're getting out of here. Beta, you're staying behind. We're just going to leave their names ceremoniously the same. So there we go. Just need to get some rust delivered in here, and we will send them on their way, and we will close this out. So let's get them out of here. We just need to get them somewhere close. We can't really bounce off of this asteroid to refuel. So I'm just going to get them, like, maybe here? Sure. And we can abandon ship there. But it's not like we're really going to do that, because this is basically game over, so I'm just pretending that we're doing this. Yeah, we have plenty of fuel. I know what I'm doing. Just launch. And then this launch will kind of end the run. And, yeah, so my plans for the upcoming weeks is I'm going to take a little bit of a break just to chill and hang out, play some other games for a little while, but I will be back creating some more Oxygen Not Included content. And there we go, off into the red lines. Yay! So yeah, that's how you take the Magma Asteroid all in one big video, as my voice is like emitting magma itself. Okay, thank you very much for watching. I'll be back with some videos here in the next couple weeks. Until then, I'll see you soon, and thank you very much if you watch the entire series, or if you watch the channel at all. I'll see you really soon.